These are the 5 biggest mistakes that you are making in your speed training that is not letting you get the results that you need to become the fastest and most athletic version of yourself as an athlete. But these are relatively simple, and so are the fixes. So let's dive into what the errors are, how to fix them, and I have a bunch of videos and examples to kind of help bring this full circle so you can wrap your head around it, so you can make improvements starting today to get more gains and get even faster. So let's get into it. So first, I think it's always worth putting out there the background of what goes into speed and the biomotor qualities and just the ranking and kind of hierarchy of the qualities. And once you're strong enough, then you can turn that into power, so creating force fast. And then on top of that, the last biomotor quality is going to be speed, doing things just fast. And this will come back up later in the presentation. That most things that athletes do in training, either too slow or it's because they were too tired to actually run fast. There's 3 intensity zones in training. So the high intensity zone is going to be 95 to 100% of your best speed. So let's say your best speed is 10 meters a second. Then you have to hit at least 9.5 meters a second, or 95% or higher, to cause gains that is fast enough to stimulate your speed. There is medium intensity, so that's going to be kind of 76 to 94%, to where it's fast enough to accumulate fatigue and make you tired, but it's not that fast to where it's going to cause speed gains. And this is what most sport practices is going to fall into. This is what most conditioning is going to be. And then last, there is low intensity, or basically 75% or less of your best speed. And this is going to be most active recovery work, just light stuff. And this becomes an issue because most training, sport practice, and things like that is medium intensity kind of by default. Or also, athletes just call their conditioning speed work, but it's not really speed work. It is actually just conditioning because the speeds that they're achieving are not high enough. Or their speed work is structured and set up and executed more like conditioning. So when it's their time to actually sprint, they're too tired to hit the speeds that they need to actually hit. So I just have some videos here of some athletes doing some pretty cool things. And, I have 2 sprints and a jump. And I think the main point of this is, if you don't know if you're hitting 95% or not, then that would be just like trying to get stronger without actually calculating how much weight is on the bar. The last video here is an athlete doing a vertical jump, because any sort of athletic thing where it is a max effort output, right? A sprint, a jump, you have to hit something that is fast enough or high enough. So the fixes for your stuff being too slow or you being too tired is first just how you set up your actual training week. And the fancy term here is called a high-low training model. So basically, your hard days are hard when it's your time to do stuff. But also on the flip side, make your easy days a little bit easier, your low days low. And this comes into play when most athletes in their training week, let's say Monday through Saturday, every day is that medium hard-ish, that kind of medium intensity speed zone, when they have a huge sport practice on one day, and then a big lift the next day, and then a big conditioning session the next day. Versus if you take the same training sessions, if you lay out your entire training week, you just move one session to that day and one session to that day and kind of things like that, then you have, let's say a big practice and a lift after, then you have a complete off day, and then you have your conditioning session. So you're doing the same amount of stuff. It's just reorganized a little bit more intelligently and a little bit more thought out beforehand, to where you have those little spurts of recovery in the middle. So when it's your time to actually go hard on the high days, then you can actually do things that are fast. You can actually lift heavy weights and things like that. In the actual session itself, just walk back. So the rule of thumb in sprinting is, for every 10 yards that you sprint hard, you should rest about a minute, and 20 yards, 2 minutes, and so on. And let's use this 20-yard sprint as an example, to where if you sprint 20 yards, let's say it takes you 10 to 15 yards to kind of slow down after, to decelerate. So let's say you're 35 yards away. By the time it takes you to slowly walk back 35 yards, it's probably going to be about 2 minutes, right? So a good rule of thumb, you don't even have to have a watch and time your rest, just slowly walk back. Instead of getting caught in that trap of, I have to jog back, and coach doesn't want anyone walking. And then when you get back to the line, you're still tired. And then your sprint can't be as fast as it could be or should be. And an even easier rule of thumb if you don't feel ready to sprint again, just wait longer. I know that sounds kind of dumb, but if your breathing is still a little quicker than normal, or if your heart rate is still elevated, or if mentally you're still, kind of just tired and not psychologically ready to go again, just wait longer. You have to do things that are fast enough, and in order to first go fast, you have to not be tired. Second mistake is that athletes don't have mechanics work in their training. And there is a 3-step model, or kind of 3 ways to get faster, at least kind of how I describe it. Number 1, you can hit the ground harder. And this is what most athletes, coaches think of when they think of speed work is, you hit the ground and the ground hits you back. That's how physics and ground reaction forces work. So if you have stronger quads and glutes and hamstrings and stiffer ankles, yes, you're going to hit it harder or lose less energy when it is pushing you back. But with these ground reaction forces, you can put the same amount of energy into the ground, just in a better direction that is going to give you better speed, more speed coming out of it, right? So instead of attacking the ground more vertical than horizontal, because it's going to push you the opposite, if you hit the ground more horizontally, then it's going to push you back more horizontally, and that's what we're looking for, horizontal speed. And last is hitting the ground smoother, right? So let's take the fastest athlete ever, Usain Bolt. When he's winning the 100-meter dash in the Olympics, your first thought isn't, oh my gosh, that looks so hard for him, or he was trying so hard. It's actually the opposite of, was he even trying, or why did that look so easy to just dust everyone, right? So I think one of the biggest mistakes is all of those you can do incorrectly, that the omission or lack of mechanics work, because I'm not a track athlete, does more of a disservice than a service. And with that being said, there is a mindset that goes into doing mechanics work for team sport athletes. So first, there's 3 benefits. Number 1, I think it's a great way to bridge the gap between lower intensity stuff, just the general movement, dynamic stretching in a warm-up, to the all-out sprinting that you're going to get to at the end of a warm-up anyways. So it's that nice medium intensity, kind of get the brain, the coordination and everything going. Second, they just become more athletic because you're doing these hopping rhythm, coordinate your arms and your legs, different movement patterns, things. So it develops just more athleticism. And last, it does help you hit the ground better because your mechanics do improve over time. So I don't do mechanics work with my team sport athletes with the sole purpose of getting them to look like track athletes. But if it has a bunch of benefits for not only a better warm-up, but they become more athletic and they also sprint better, I think it makes a lot of sense. And I just have some videos here. We have a dribble bleed out. So dribble small, medium, big for 10 yards and then run it out for 10. Can you feel high off the ground, good posture, strike the ground underneath your hips? And can you add speed into your sprint without tightening up? So can you stay smooth when you're going really slow at the beginning, but then can you stay smooth when you're going all out at the end? We have a banded bound. So the band is pulling back horizontally. So that means that the athlete has to hit back horizontally for the ground to push them to counteract the band, right? So one of those drills where I don't have to say much, if the athlete isn't hitting the ground better, then the band is going to win, and they're not really going to go anywhere. And then we have a triple hop banded A switch. So hip flexors, strength, ankle stiffness, coordination, posture because the band is pulling back at the waist, and just a lot to like in just a few examples of mechanics work. Mistake number 3, conflicting strength work. So strength work can conflict in the training week and the schedule, but also strength itself. So going back to this idea of a high-low model, whether athletes just want to do something every day or they don't think that they can handle doing sprinting and lifting on the same day. So instead of going hour speed on Monday, hour lift on Tuesday, hour speed on Wednesday, hour lift on Thursday, if you were just to take hour speed, hour lift, put them together, let's just say 45 minutes each. So you go 45-minute sprint, 45-minute lift on Monday. Then you have Tuesday off. Then you go 45-minute lift on Wednesday, 45-minute speed or speed then lift. Then you're off on Thursday. You're doing basically the same amount of work, just the quality is going to be a lot higher because you're going to get that recovery, those low days kind of in the middle. But for strength itself, you have to lift for strength appropriately. So the level of strong enough that I got from a few smart coaches out there like Matt Ray and Mike Young, basically around this 1.7 times body weight for a good back squat, good form, good depth. So I weigh 200 pounds. So basically, as soon as I hit the 340, or let's just round up to 350, if you can hit 1.7 for a really good, 2 or 3 reps, you are strong enough. Now, that's not to say that increasing it from 1.7 times body weight to 1.8 is not going to have any benefits, but there's diminishing returns. So as you're getting stronger, the help to your speed is a lot. And then you cross the threshold and then it starts to level off. So the point is saying, if you go from 1.7 to 1.8, it's probably still going to help. But the time and effort that it takes to go from 1.8 to 1.9 is not worth the squeeze if you just keep your strength at 1.8, but you have all of this extra time and effort and just recovery resources and psychological resources to actually do more speed work, right? So when you're strong enough, you just have more time and effort to do other things once you kind of check that box, again, because strength is below speed on the pyramid. And then also lifting for speed appropriately. So first, if you're not strong enough, just get strong enough. But second, when it's your time to lift fast things, is it fast enough? So going back to the Charlie Francis 95%. And if you haven't seen thus far, we're 3.5 points in, 3.5 mistakes in, that these things are all connected and related. So I have some videos here. This is an athlete of mine doing 5.5 plates, 5-second eccentric back squat. And with that being said, form was what it is, but this was supposed to be just a heavy stimulus, right? So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I was counting out loud because I wanted him to for sure get his 5 seconds. But this athlete, strong enough. Next, when it's your time to do power work, is it actually power? And just because an athlete is strong enough, you don't abandon it. You just progress on the pyramid. Look at that, from strength to power. And power becomes your advanced kind of strength work. So do you know what power is? And it's going to be around 65-70% of a 1 rep max. But is it set up to actually be powerful? And when it's your time to do speed work, next here I just have some barbell jumps. Is it actually fast enough? Or are you stuck in the trap of wanting it to be kind of heavy-ish just to feel like you're actually moving weight around? Or can you buy completely in, this is the same athlete that was power squatting 3.5 plates. They're only jumping with, was that 25 pounds on each side, something like that? It's kilos in this video. I know it's kind of lame. So when it's your time to lift heavy, lift heavy. When it's your time to be powerful, be powerful. When it's your time to take a lightweight and jump as fast and high as possible, then do that. Mistake number 4, there's no complementary training. And complementary means what else helps being fast beyond just actual sprinting and speed work itself. So first, if an athlete is not strong enough, start there. But things like ankle stiffness, things like anterior core strength to keep the pelvis neutral instead of dipping into anterior tilt. Can the hip flexors bring the swing leg through fast enough to recover, to get in a good position, to hit the ground better, right? Going back to mechanics. When it's your time to do power work, is it actually powerful? And are you coaching and cueing your athletes to be smoother? If they have all of the qualities, they're strong, they do their power, they train well, but are they just trying too hard? Are they tensing? Are they white knuckling their way through their running? And another way to kind of say this of the qualities that make someone fast is more or less the weakest link. If your body can sprint 20 miles an hour, but your ankles can only handle the forces of 18, right? They just collapse and mush. Well, then you're only going to sprint 18 miles an hour. So you could have all your speed work set up, but you still have a bunch of these weakest links kind of in the chain that's going to be the level of speed that you can actually achieve. And here are just some examples of these kind of complementary qualities. So first is just a super high quality hurdle jump. One hurdle, hit the ground, other hurdle, cue is hot lava, get off the ground as fast as you can, but also be fluid and athletic. And next, here's an example of what I would consider the smooth work or also power work, but the focus for this athlete being a little bit more muscularly driven is, can we do 5 super fast, super high quality split squats without stopping? So continuous reps, if you will. So 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can the athlete contract, explode up, and then relax, let the weight kind of pull them down, and then stop themselves and organize? And can they do this contract, relax kind of pattern and rhythm with some load, right? And how easy can it look and feel? And then also the hip flexors. So in sprinting, you have ground time and air time. Ground time, you're always trying to minimize that as low as possible. So can you get on and off the ground? Less time, less time, less time. Air time has a kind of U relationship or U quality to where you can't have too little air time, but also you can be in the air for too long as well to where you're kind of jumping and bounding. So in basically a finite window of air time, can we be as effective as possible with our swing leg and our recovery leg, getting it through into a good position, right? So if we know that we have to move our thighs through fast and our hip flexors have to do that fast, then why are we holding a plank for 3 minutes at a time? It just doesn't make sense. So the muscles that have to be fast, you have to train them fast. Rocket science, right? And mistake number 5, point number 5, is both the lack of variation, but also lack of specificity. So Boo Schexnayder has a good quote to where you can either be fancy or you can be intense or fast. You can't do both. And with that being said, there's another quote of his where the attainment of mastery is in the struggle of trying to attain mastery, or some sort of version of that quote, where if you're only doing drills that the athlete likes, that they're good at, that they get right away, then you're not challenging them and making them more athletic. So it's important to intentionally change things up. There are certain parts of my warm-up, certain drills that I never do the exact same way twice ever for that purpose. But on the flip side, when it is your time to be intense, when it is your time to lift heavy, when it is your time to sprint fast, are you setting it up to where it is as fast or as heavy or as high intense as possible? And here are some videos, and this is one of the best things to come from kind of COVID, was training out on this turf soccer field and using the lines on the soccer field to be our constraints or our boundaries for tag. So athlete has to tag each of the 3 people on the other team, run back and get their teammate, and then all 3 teammates have to go, and then their time is up. So navigating the constraints of the boundary, navigating your other teammates not wanting to run into them, and also trying to not be tagged. There's just a lot of good things to like here. And I can change this up every little configuration of lines on the soccer field. So just talk about like training direction and agility and training that. You have to get actual agility in. And the second video I have here is just a partner sprint race for the person in front, lying on the stomach, person in back, hands and knees, because the person in front is at a disadvantage because they're in a harder position to get up from. I just say ready. The person in front gets to get up and sprint whenever they want, and the person in back has to react and try to tag them before, I think it was 10 or 15 yards. This is a great drill to where brain off, just run, compete. But also, you can never do the same partner configuration twice if you really try. There's so many ways to start a sprint. You have regular, feet, toes parallel. You have right foot forward, left foot forward, on one knee, on the other knee, on both knees, laying on your stomach, hands and knees, laying on being on your hands and knees, facing sideways, facing backwards, etc., etc. So to summarize all of these things in just 3 points, you have to organize your training to let your heavy stuff be heavy, your fast stuff be fast, but also get some recovery to actually make those gains, right? So follow a high-low training model. Don't put too many reps of anything in a workout. Track the speed so you know if you are getting the intensity that you need, or that you are programming, or that you are assuming that your athlete is getting. Learn how to hit the ground better. And within that, mechanics drills. You're going to develop ankle stiffness, so it's going to help you hit the ground harder, but also doing these athletic coordinated drills are going to help you be smoother. So there's a lot of things to like about mechanics work. And everything has to come back to speed, to how you organize your training week, to how you coach and run the training session itself, to how and when you lift, to how and when you end your lifts with your accessory type exercises. So that's all I have for you. Hopefully you see the common connection points in there of how this is more similar than dissimilar. But those are 5 distinct mistakes that you are probably making, and the fixes to help you get even faster. So happy training.